Yo, the name's Viperhat and this is the first proper video I am making for this channel. Yeah, there ain't no shit tier memes this time, I know. It's massively disappointing, but don't worry, I should have a few more lined up at some point. Maybe in a couple of months or so. I have a few things I need to get off my disgusting flabby chest. So I thought I'd voice my concerns and my distastes for certain things on this channel. That's going to be fun, you know, complaining a British right, if there ever was one. As you can likely tell, this is going to be a small 2 or 3 part series where I will attempt to summarise my thoughts and feelings about the Walking Dead game, specifically its final episode. The end of Clementine's journey. A story 6 or so years in the making, coming to an end after all this time. We finally get to see Clementine's fate, as well as the half-mad 6 or so year old child tag-along in AJ Jr. You know, that's pretty cool too. Fair enough, and it's the first time we actually get to see AJ in action, as it were, so good job. The first 3 episodes were fan-fucking-tastic, each one getting better and better with each release, improving to the point where episode 3 is actually my favourite episode in the entire series, hands down, even over season 1. Characters once again had personality, skills, strengths, and the one thing that makes us want to keep them alive and get to know them better: interest. The game is also the only one in the series where Clementine gets to choose who she'd prefer to do the naughty with when this season is over. That's pretty neat. Add in a few returning characters, a pretty simplistic yet intriguing plot, and characters that are actually some of the best in the series, then you get, in my opinion, the best season out of all of the games. But episode 4 was disappointing. So why is that? Well, that's going to be the first part of this little mini-series. Let's hope I can actually do this right, shall we?
You hold your every breath. Life is for the living in the water. Oh, you feel that you should run.
The original plot picks up from where episode 3 left off, with the boat exploding and Clementine losing her beloved hat, and having to save AJ from an untimely demise. Clementine, AJ and Ten are separated from the other kids soon enough after all hell breaks loose on the shoreline where the boat once stood. They manage to navigate their way through a cave and are found by Lewis/Violet, who decided to come back for them, like the nice, wholesome people they are. Speaking of wholesome moments, we have a nice little segment dedicated to the conversation between Clementine and whoever she saved back in episode 2. That is nice, it's very, very wholesome. Lewis talks about building a house, and Violet, well, she talks about actually turning the school into a place to live. Anyway, that scene ends, and before long we come across a broken bridge, and it turns out it wasn't quite finished. Either that or, well, something fell through it. Either way, they have to jump over it. It's not long enough for them to fall into the very, very scary pit of doom below, but far enough to cause a bit of fear. However, before they can actually start jumping, they are found by a dying and clearly insane Minerva, who tries killing Ten out of her new twisted sense of love towards her brother. Obviously, a fight ensues in which Clementine's leg gets axe-fucked by Minerva before she shoots the walking nutcase into her own horde, sealing her fate. Oh yeah, did I forget that Minerva brought a fucking herd with her? Anyway, this is the part where Ten then decides to have another episode. The same kind of episode that got Mitch killed back in episode 2. So obviously he tries to make a grab for his sister, only to have either Lewis or Violet hold him back. You know, risking their life to stop him dying. Then, depending on what you told AJ back in the cave, he will either shoot the fuck out of Ten's neck, thus sparing Lewis or Violet from the fate of being a recipient of a Walker gangbang session, or AJ will tell them to throw Ten over to them, which will leave Lewis or Violet to be made into the main course for a huge herd of walkers, the same walkers that Minerva brought with her. Anyway, after that clusterfuck, Clem and AJ are separated from the kid you saved, or Ten, and have to take part in a fun rock climbing session. But wait! Clem gets her foot munched on and is officially doomed to death. Cut a few hours later and we find Clem and AJ are struggling to keep the walkers out of James's barn. It's a pretty cool scene, but wait, Uwu, what's this? Clem can barely fucking move anymore. Does that remind you of anything? Now, after you succeed in successfully keeping the walkers out of the barn, the big sad scene occurs, of which Clementine will be saying her goodbyes to AJ and making sure he remembers the rules she gave him all those years ago. And it all finally comes to a head when you are given the heart-wrenching choice to either fuck the shit out of Clem's face with the same axe that sealed her fate to begin with, or allowing her to turn and becoming another rotting face among the sea of many other rotting faces. But, plot twist, regardless of what you say to him, AJ decides to axe you, because violence, as we have learned, solves everything. Oh, and then we're given a seaman of the ranch and we kill Eddie from the 400 Days DLC, which, you know, it's cool. That's fair enough. Then we cut to AJ collecting fish with Rosie. Good. Who's a good gal? Who's a good gal? Now, depending on if you killed 10 or saved him, you are given this delightful dilemma in which you either get Walker 10 show up on your turf, in which case you have to put another bullet in his face or leave him to do his usual Walker things, like eating flesh, gurgling incoherent gibberish and voting for Ed Miliband, like all other zombies do. Or you will find him alive, but looking like he may as well be doing Walker things with how dirty his fucking clothes are, to which he will begin whinging about being a little bitch before asking if AJ can teach him how to be more like him. Oh, and Ruby appears in one of the scenes. AJ finally leaves the fishing shack and... Oh, ye bastards. Yeah, they fucking played a goddamn Alayla Diane on us. Way to make me fucking weep, Skybound. Jesus Christ. So, at this point, after we have all been and done the big sad, thank you, take us back, you'd think, okay, time to see how things are at the school. You know, how are Lewis and Violet? Or Lewis or Violet? Because, you get it, one of them dies. How has everyone coped from losing our dear beloved Clem and, you know, that other kid that lives with them? And finally, how does everything end? But wait, hang on. Clementine isn't actually dead.
Surprise, motherfucker!
It seems that if you ignore the amount of time she was bitten, the disgusting and clearly unsanitary state of the axe, and how out of commission Clem looked in that barn, she was actually still savable. Okay then, at least we have other endings, right? Right? Oh. Oh. Oh no. Okay, sure, okay, a linear ending. Very well. Well, it may as well be a linear ending. But what about the final state of the school? Maybe we can get some insight to how everyone is. Wait, what? No? What in the ever-living Christ is going on here? I mean, just... what? I mean... Ah, fuck it. Anyway, we get a small scene with whoever you saved on the bridge, and if you romanced one of the kids, then you get an extra 10 to 20 seconds with them before everything resumes. Then we get the final and, admittedly, emotional talk with Clementine. Oh, and did I mention she loses her hat and we get it back? Yeah, I probably should have said that first. Oh well. Cue the final scene, where you get the people who worked on the game, you know, the still not bitten team. You know, the people who worked on the game after Telltale fucked them over, essentially. Yeah, their names are placed upon the walls and floor, and I'm pretty sure there's one or two on the ceiling. I didn't really check, but whatever. It's all upon the floor of the dorms and the walls. Then AJ, seemingly not noticing the new vandalism, just enters his room. And then we get to have a quick look at everything we have collected over the entire season before placing Clem's hat down on the counter. And thus, the game and series comes to an end.
You hold your every breath. Life is for the living.
Now you see, despite everything that was great about this episode, all of its strengths and great moments, there are glaring problems and personal issues, with me at least, that plague it. As much as I enjoyed that wholesome, lovely little talk between Lewis and Clementine in the woods personally, the entertaining talk between her and Violet, there was still the issue of the others still having their unresolved issue in their being captured, with Lewis losing his tongue and being completely broken from his stay with Lily, and Violet with her abandonment issues and mistrust towards Clementine afterward. Speaking of unresolved and rushed issues, Lily and James didn't really get the attention they deserved, at all. If you killed Lily, James gets pissy and tries to attempt the world's worst kidnapping attempt you'll ever see on AJ, and Lily just fucks off. To be fair, James's end was pretty satisfying, but it just doesn't change anything. Whether he leaves or decides to get a little bit violent with the walkers, you still end up the same way. Out of that cave and finding the kid you saved. And the ranch. Okay, I admit, this is going to be a little bit unpopular with some of you, but I thought that the ranch should have remained a mystery. Leave a huge hint that something awful happened to Clementine and AJ in there, and it left them traumatized. Showing us what happened did two things that completely damaged the overall rating this episode will get from me. It ruined the mystery of the entire event, and it left a bunch of overhyped fans disappointed in what really happened. The entire thing was very tame. Everyone was expecting something very dark and very brutal, or something that was extremely bad. But all that happens is she becomes very guilty after shooting someone who was innocent. So yeah, that's it. That's literally it for Clementine's whole ranch thing. Speaking of Clementine, there's that whole issue with Clementine's Clementine's death. Look, there is a difference between ambiguity and fake-outs, and this scene is just one big fake-out, ignoring all the small things, like the fact that even if Clementine could survive losing her leg to an infected axe covered in walker blood and not bleed out quicker than the bite would turn her, she's still unable to move, and AJ couldn't possibly carry her to the school in time. Plus, there is the whole thing about zombies surrounding them and trying to break into the barn as he's hacking away at her leg. Yeah, we'll just ignore all that. Fake-outs are bad tropes for stories in general, not just video games. They are lazy, they waste precious time on building something up that will never get a conclusion, and they play with your emotions and thoughts, making you believe one thing and then suddenly just slapping you in the face with an entirely new conclusion without any kind of logical reasoning or build-up to said conclusion. If you want to see how truly terrible fake-outs are, watch Fairy Tail's final arc. It will be called Alvarez in the manga, and they're currently doing the arc in anime. So if you want to watch the anime, go ahead. If you want to see it in the manga, fine by me. But anyway, you watch that and you'll completely understand why fake-outs annoy me. And then we get to the idea of the multiple endings. Now, I've defended Mass Effect 3, though not on YouTube obviously, and its endings, mostly due to the premise being misunderstood by the majority of gamers. But unlike Mass Effect, The Walking Dead is fully deserving of those criticisms. The endings are barely any different from one another. Just change how a majority of the minute is used and you have your multiple endings in each scenario. Literally, just a few minutes or so. And then that apparently constitutes as a different ending to the one you would have gotten. You essentially either have 10 with you in the school or Lewis/Violet. You know, whoever you saved on the bridge earlier in the episode. Then you get maybe a minute or so of time with them before the endings commence as they would have done. But honestly, this is not a good way to end this series. It feels like the writers at Telltale were desperate for a happy ending. And honestly, this desperation is a very common thing in many a series and many a product. And the desperation for a happy ending has claimed yet another franchise. Again, see Fairy Tail for what I mean. There are some small things as well I wasn't a fan of, like Asim and Omar not getting any time dedicated to them, like they deserved, a lack of response from Clementine if her boyfriend/girlfriend dies, and AJ. The way some of the previous choices from other episodes are just briefly mentioned and left, but that's not really worth spending any time on to criticise. They're too small, just way too bloody small to really get into the nitty gritty of them, because there's barely anything there to begin with. But besides those things, I pretty much love everything else. Like the bridge scene, for example, with Minerva, that was perfection. Like, that was easily the best moment of that entire episode. It was thrilling, creepy, and it was action-packed. You know, everything that a good action scene should be. I don't agree with the overall direction with episode 4, but at the end of the day I have to say that it was handled well, besides the things I have mentioned above. But I would have done it differently, save for those few things, of course, that I liked. Overall, it was a good episode, but it's easily the weakest in my opinion in the series. And it could have been so much better. It could have been the strongest. No, it should have been the strongest. And the worst part about it is that it could have been easily achieved if Kevin Bruner's evil management on Telltale before didn't set them down this awful path. And honestly, if Telltale had just decided to actually evolve their games as they went along, maybe they wouldn't be here now. Unfortunately, this is what we get, and I can't even be mad. I can't even be mad, because, quite frankly, the skeleton team that was there, 25 people I believe, completing one episode that was barely even begun, that's fucking impressive. And because of them, we got an ending that we may not have gotten at all. I can't be mad, as much as I wish I could be, because we very well may have not gotten an ending at all. Anyway, overall, I give the episode, personally, a 7 out of 10, which, you know, that's pretty damn good for a modern day Walking Dead episode. So, yeah, it's certainly better than anything from Season 3, and a fair few bits from Season 2 as well, actually. Anyway, stick around for the next part, because I will be doing my own rewrite, taking this in a different direction for the most part. I have it almost all planned out, I just need to write a few more bits, and then we're golden. So yeah, stick around until then, and yeah, until next time, fuck off.